Guys, this is it. My dream come true. We are gonna build the ultimate Supra. We have the Judd Power V10, 11,000 RPM revving screaming monster. We have the Mark V A90 Supra. Let's do this. All right, so as many of you or all of you already know, this is the GT4 586. This is kind of the biggest project or build project I've done, the most wild engine swap I have ever done. And I think this is gonna top it. There was a lot learned in the process of building this car and putting an exotic engine inside of a street car chassis like this. This came out great. There's a lot of stuff that could have been cleaned up, and there's a lot of lessons learned on this build that we can now apply to this build with the Judd and the Supra. So doing this build is kind of like a gut instinct for me. Like when I did the GT4 586 with Gum Out, they trusted me, and I told them like this could be something huge, and it turned out to be phenomenal. And because of all you guys out there being fans and supporting that project, it has kind of led to this. And because of you guys, this is going to happen right now. Putting this engine into a Supra or a street style chassis is just what I like. It's what I want to do. It's what I want to, how I want to be different and do things brand new that nobody's done before. So as soon as the Supra came out, I knew that this was the motor that it needed for it. And Toyota had the same idea. They were down. They helped supply the Supra for the project, and it's freaking going down, dude.
Audio Jungle.
So let's get into it. This is the Judd GV4 4-liter V10 that revs to 11,000 RPMs, makes about 750 horsepower unrestricted, and this is their Le Mans motor. So this thing actually won Daytona 24-hour, I believe back in 2000 or 2001, with one of their teams that they supplied engines for. Everything is enclosed. So everything is runoff reduction gears. The water pump, it has 2 water pumps for each side of the engine. The internal dry sump is all run off the same shaft. The cams are driven off of gears. It's really cool because there's no belt, there's no chain that wears out. There are these really cool reduction gears to operate the oil pump, the water pump, the alternator. Obviously, one of the coolest things on this engine are the stacks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It has slide throttles, which is a little older school style. They now have upgraded a lot of their newer engines to barrel throttles, but this thing has slide throttles, which is pretty common for the race engines back in that day. So you can actually see the head is split into 2 different stages. So down here, this is actually the cylinder right here. Look how short that is. It's probably like 55 millimeters. That 750 horsepower unrestricted with such a short stroke, you gotta rev the crap out of the engine. That's why this thing makes all the power at the top end. It doesn't even start making any decent power until about 7,000 to 8,000 RPMs and then rings itself all the way up to 11,000. So these stacks go directly into the valve train. You can see the valves when you open the throttles and look down this thing. The valves are down here on this block of head, and then the cams are up here in the top. So it's pretty cool, and I believe, I don't know this for sure, but I believe they did that for maintenance purposes, so if you do have an issue, you can easily just remove the top portion of the head, get to the valve, replace something if you need to. And then this is the oil pump on this side. Like I said, these are all gears in here that all drive everything associated with the engine, and then there's gears that come up here in the front as well, or maybe they're in the back, I'm not actually positive about that, and they drive the cams. So obviously structural integrity is a massive thing with these engines, as light as they are. This thing only weighs about, I think it weighs 320 pounds. Me and Dominic loaded this in a pickup truck like no problem, just the 2 of us. It wasn't even a big deal. So they're super light, they're super compact. I mean, from the bottom to the top, I think it's only 24 inches, so that's just about 2 feet. And lengthwise is almost about the same. So it's really compact for the amount of power and output that this thing has. The structural integrity on this thing has to be super high because in the Formula cars, you're bolting a transaxle to the engine. So this is like part of your motor plate. The entire engine is part of the chassis. So you can see in the back, like the mounting holes, there's mounting holes in the top of the head here to bolt the engine. There's 2 holes right here and then 2 on the bottom. And that goes for the front as well. So that's why you see a little extra casting going into the top of the head is for structural integrity so that this thing can last inside the chassis and not twist and turn, because if it turns or has too much deflection, then everything is gonna twist and you can seize the engine. Things can come apart, especially at 11,000 RPM. I mean, think about the piston speed at 11,000 RPM. That is freaking absolutely insane. This is the one shaft that drives from the reduction gear in the front, the water pump, the oil pump, the alternator, and all the way back. That one gear drives all three of these accessories to help keep this engine running. What I'm really stoked on is Dominic is gonna build Inconel headers for the exhaust system. And it's gonna be super thin, just like F1 style, running exotic materials. It's gonna be extremely pricey. And what better chassis to put my dream engine in than the Mark V A90 Supra? So this is the legendary Mark V A90 Supra. One of my first experiences with a Supra was obviously Mark IV, going to the drag strip super early on. They made a ton of power and they ran, I think the one I saw ran like a low 10, which was pretty wild back when I was a teenager. Those things were still making ridiculous amounts of power. I never actually owned one until now. This is the first Supra I've ever owned, the Mark V A90 Supra. Obviously, I still now want to go backwards on the list. I still want, everybody wants the Mark IV since that's kind of like the Halo Supra. But I'm pretty sure this is going to soon take over that because this car is phenomenal to drive. And it is probably the first car that I've ever got that I'm actually going to be disappointed about taking apart and building into a race car. So we're here to build a race car that's going to be multi-use, so drifting, hill climb, and time attack. I really want to utilize this engine for what it was built for, along with utilizing it for what it wasn't built for, such as drifting. So one of the key elements to this build is going to be trying to make it as light as possible. Since this engine only weighs about 320 pounds, we're already off to a good start, and since it's so short, we can mount it super low in the chassis for good weight distribution. The car itself is a little heavy, but it has a lot to it. There's a lot of electronics in the car, and we're probably gonna shed well over 500 pounds just taking all that stuff out. Our goal is to get this thing to 2,500 pounds. Is that ambitious? I'd say it is. Can we make it happen? Yes. It just depends on where we can focus our budget and our money with trying to do the rest of the things. So there's gonna be a balance here for sure, but we want this thing to be as light as possible so that the power and weight of this vehicle goes as far as it possibly can. I think the Supra chassis is gonna be the perfect car to put the Judd engine in and use it for these hill climbs, time attacks, and drifting like I talked about. The car is already super capable. The thing absolutely freaking rip. It is a burnout machine. And we're kicking things off with this brand new Formula Supra shirt. This has all the major partners of the build on the shirt. You guys can get them right now on ryantuerck.com if you like what you see. Fit really nice, fits true to size on a race service blank. And this is just the beginning, guys. I just wanted to introduce you guys to what this build actually is, what it means to me. And we're gonna be releasing episodes every other Sunday, calling them Supra Sundays. Plenty more to come, so stay tuned.